Hello, and welcome to Living the Questions podcast. So, today we're going to be diving into basically a continued conversation that I've been living into for the first season and now, which is, really diving into the idea of what does it look like to take really good care of self and not abandon ourselves while simultaneously also, um, having a loving heart that cares deeply for others. And I think there's something here about something that I've been living into in this is how does taking good care of me contribute to collective care? How are those deeply intertwined? And where do I see that when I take really good care of myself? Where do I see the impact that that actually has outside of me, the care that that offers beyond me? Um, and and can I notice just how important that is for myself and for others around me? Um, And then also this piece too about bringing kindness to ourselves when we're in the process of moving from one place to the other when it comes to understanding how to live differently or how to widen perspective more. So for me, how this looks, and it will play out for everyone differently depending on your story and what you've lived out so far in your life. For me, it looks a lot like going from, and I've talked about this before, this more like fawn state of people pleasing, perfectionism, hypervigilance is safety. Over functioning is safety. And, leaning on external being the source of answers and wisdom is safety. Not rocking the boat is safety. All of that, all of those pieces, different things in those pieces, never getting anything wrong, and immediately fixing it if it's wrong is safety. And shifting from that to a not abandoning self space and recognizing what is internal safety for me in that is a very interesting space to be in, because it's not just a clear cut, okay, this is in this camp and this is over here and I need to do one or the other. Sometimes it is a pendulum swing, which I know we've talked about in a couple episodes last season. And in that, it helps to kind of figure out the entire spectrum of things. But also, what I've been noticing as I've been living into this question and living out, widening my perspective on this, is that sometimes it's really difficult to discern where we actually are. And so if I'm trying to be congruent in a moment and I'm trying to figure out, am I actually making this decision because I inherently want to make this decision? Or am I making this decision because I'm trying to mitigate tension and I'm trying to appease someone, or I'm trying to not have, conflict happen here that I'm just like projecting may or may not happen, or that a person may or may not feel. Just different scenarios where I can't quite figure out if I'm doing it from a space of trying to um trying to appease, or if I'm doing it from a space of actually wanting to. And what I've recognized is that sometimes I'll know that. Sometimes there will be a feeling inside of me that feels really clear, and other times it'll be murky. And I am learning to hold the complexity of that. I'm learning to hold the both and of that. I'm learning to recognize that sometimes where things are is just that I don't quite know yet. that I'm so used to this appeasement of things. I'm so used to leaning in that direction. And I've swung the pendulum sometimes to be not wanting to do that, that it can be, sometimes a rigid thing, and I don't want it to be a rigid thing. And so in this in between of figuring out, okay, I don't want to lean on this response. I want to be able to sit with tension. I want to be able to have a clear yes or no. And then also over here, I don't want to just be like rigid no because I'm afraid of this. Then it starts to put me in this space of being with, yeah, being with the reality that it can be both for a little while. Um, Being with the reality that I don't maybe necessarily know what I'm getting up to fully, because I'm figuring out what it feels like to have a natural yes here. Um, and can I trust myself to be honest with myself when I actually have a, a no, or when I did something only because I didn't want to upset someone else? Um, And if I do that, and also there's other pieces where maybe I was partially doing it because of that, and also there's a piece where I'm I'm partially not, then what does that look like? And it just feels like a deepening of this, yeah, of what it looks like to live in congruence. And so I think that's where I'm finding a tricky part to be, but kind of a really cool part to be, which is just to exercise understanding myself deeper and giving myself room to not have it have to be one or the other. And I think there's something really liberating about that, because the either or is so limiting to us, and we're so much more complex than that as human beings. And the either or puts us into really dangerous headspaces a lot of the time, and can really, really close us off rather than open us up. And I want to work on being a human who is really open and exploratory. And I think that part of what I'm getting up to with this is realizing that I can hold multiple things at once, and I can look at those things with honesty. And as I'm learning to trust my voice, my own inner knowing more and more, part of that is trusting myself that even if I feel like I'm making a decision that even partly has this flavor to it, this old safety coping mechanism flavor to it, I think that there's a piece of me that's allowing myself to step into that, to discover what the whole multidimensional truth may be, and what are the pieces that I can actually play with without having it to be wholly one thing or the other. And where will that help me grow more as a person? And where will that help me understand myself better? How will that help me love better? How will that help me show up more congruently, more often? Um, yeah, I think that that's what I'm starting to see. And it's really interesting because it's not easy to live into, because it feels much easier, quote unquote, to just have, a category for something, right? Like, this is me people pleasing, or this is me not people pleasing. And I just don't think it's that simplified. I don't think it's needed to be overcomplicated. I think it's actually, it is quite simple when we can look at it as a complex thing. But I don't think it's as simple as just boxing it into a it is or it isn't. I think that that there's like an entanglement that's happening that I'm parsing out. And when I was first diving into specifically things about people pleasing, I actually called a lot of what I was doing untangling people pleasing, because that's how it felt. It felt like I was untangling these like knots of things, and it didn't feel like it was wholly meant to be like tossed aside. It felt like there was wisdom in there to be had that was being mixed up with things that weren't necessary anymore for me to hold on to or live out. And that was constricting me. And so if I could parse it out, I could actually understand what the pieces were and use them with wisdom and release the things that were actually just holding me back from being more of my whole self, from living a life that wasn't totally exhausting, from doing energetic gymnastics internally, holding jobs internally, and in relationships that weren't actually ever mine or ever something that somebody asked, but perhaps became something that someone expected of me. And I needed to learn where I was teaching that and how to no longer offer that as something that I just inherently did. And so my relationship to myself has been this untangling process of getting to learn what is actually true for me. And it is really tempting to want to just this or that things to understand a bit more. And I do think there's part of the journey in life where we do that to simplify because it feels so we can feel so overstimulated and overwhelmed by the looking at something that's so tangled at first that you just have to do that, right? Like if there's a giant mess in a space, sometimes it's just easier to categorize things off and then come back and actually do um, a deeper movement of where things actually belong and need to go, and take a deeper look at things. But at first you just need to simplify stuff to make it manageable. And maybe that is what we do in our lives with this type of internal deep dive. Maybe we do actually just need to take time to simplify for a moment. And then the question is, do we actually come back to that and look at things in a more detailed way, not in a I need to like deep dive every part of my life and overthink it and overcomplicate it way, but am I actually just like, is the simplification where I stay and then have actually done a disservice here? Or has it helped me to kind of ground, and now I can come back to it and have a real, honest relationship with these pieces and get clear with myself moment to moment about what's really going on here? That is much more than just this category or this category. Because I think there's flavors of a lot of things going on at any given time. And again, where I've talked about this people pleasing part, this fawning part coming up, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's inherently bad. There are skills within that actually can be quite supportive, that are actually really profoundly wise, that the nervous system is using to help support me and keep me alive. And when I can be with the complexity of all that's going on, can I really regard those parts? Can I see what's needed and what's not? And can I see where there's mini movements that can be made rather than large swings for myself? And can it help me be more loving, be more generous, be more aligned, um, be clearer as a human being, which is one of the most loving things that we can do. And when I do these things for myself, if it is deeply important to me, which for me it is, to have the what I'm up to in this world have a um, not only be about me, but be about the the collective, then can I pay attention to, as I am a part of that collective, can I pay attention to the impact that's being had when I take good care like that, when I take the time to do these things with my own internal world, when I am unlimiting and unblocking and being really clear with myself and offering that to the world, to my relationships, to the work that I do. Um, what impact does that have on not just myself? I think that like that has been such a block for me for so long, that focusing on things that are going on internally for me, I really did just, and I know we talked about this in an episode last season, like I really communicated that internally as, oh, that is so selfish to do. It should be focused outside. And then that was the pendulum swing. It became, okay, so then we'll abandon what's going on in here and we'll just focus externally. And the battle that happens naturally, I think, internally, when that's the storyline, is brutal and exhausting and untenable. It's really unsustainable. And so, what do we do to shift that if that's what's going on? And that's the question I've really been living into now for years and years and years and years. And I'm really liking where it's coming to, which is that I definitely still have a twinge of, oh, I shouldn't be so focused on myself. Um, and I'm working to shift the narrative of recognizing that we are all interconnected and that taking good care of me has great impact on taking good care of anyone else outside of me, of taking care of the world, that all of these things contribute to how I show up in the world too, and how I get to be generous and get to be, um, like get to really offer from my heart and soul, get to offer from non-depleted energy, get to offer from a place that is um, really honest and deeply loving and deeply caring without myself being extracted from for that to happen. So to really be caring for myself while simultaneously having that to offer to another, and recognizing that the care of myself does offer something to another, that multiple things are going on at one time that contribute to collective care. And yeah, and also things beyond my own comprehension energetically, that when I'm taking good care of myself in that way, it is beyond my 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 brain's capacity to understand what might be going on energetically that contributes in a really beautiful way. And that to me is really powerful. And that's something I'm curious about too. And just even on the relational front of what I've seen, to be really not abandoning self anymore, I see the massive impact that that makes in everything in my life. And it's tricky to be in the space of being in that habit, um, of wanting to put others first and see that as deep, deep love. And also, um, to know that to not abandon ourselves is a part of that ask. So to want to love deeply, to want to love others deeply, to want to love the world deeply, it requires us to not abandon ourselves in the process. Can I have unconditional positive regard? Can I regard myself deeply and my humanity deeply? And can I love another and regard another deeply at the same time? And this is where the complexity comes into play. Can I hold both things? Can more than one thing be happening at one time? Can I choose to not have myself go from um, in like boundary terms, like super porous to super rigid? Can I be in a space where I understand that multiple things are happening, that different understandings are happening, that it won't be all one or all the other at any given time, that multiple things will go on, and can I recognize that it's all important? So I think those are the questions that I've been diving into lately, of and consistently, which is, can I really honor that, yeah, that space where multiple things are happening at once, and where discernment isn't necessarily super clear, that I have to live into discernment. I think that's it. I have to live into discernment. And that may feel like it's unclear to start, and it's worth stepping into. I may make a choice that I'm not quite sure if I'm making it from a place of past coping mechanisms and wounds, um, or if I'm also making it from a space of genuinely wanting that. To be able to parse that out, I need to live into it. And that might mean making decisions from places that may be making decisions from an old space, an old safety coping mechanism space. And when I'm in that, can I let myself know, like, can that be a practice of me learning, oh yeah, I did do that. Okay, so this time when I made that decision, I was doing it from this, and let myself be clear on that. Or it can be, oh, I did have part of that, and also, I did want to do this piece. And can I just play with that there? Like, what does that look like? And what does that mean for me? And personally, for me, I love these deep dives. I love remaining curious there to really understand what am I getting up to? What parts am I using? Did I have to use this piece or did I not? And not to over analyze or overdo or need to add more work in my day to day and the way I think about things, but just to be honest with myself. If I want to be evolving, if I want to be growing, if I want to be healing, if I want to care well for myself and externally beyond me, um, it's important to be curious and to step into things even when it's not super clear to start. And can I trust myself that even when I don't have that clarity, that I will be I will take good care in those moments, and that I will be wise in those moments to let myself learn from it, and to let myself, yeah, to let myself just be human, be experiencing, be deepening, be evolving in real time, be participating in life, letting it be an exploration, and letting it be a wise and discerning one, and to live into the discernment, to recognize that I won't just know discernment, but my body will communicate things to me in the lived experience. If I'm not fully clear, sometimes things feel fully clear right away and I'm able to discern, but when they don't, can I not be hard on myself, forcing myself to either or it? Can I actually live into it and see that there might just be multiple truths at one time? Can I live into it and allow myself to recognize what is actually true for me through lived experience, through having my body communicate in real time to me, so that I'm outside of the overthinking that might happen if I just forced myself to categorize one thing or the other. Can I let it be more than just that? And I think that's the space I find myself in, and I actually really like that. It was very intimidating at first because I did have in my head that I needed to like have a yes or a no at things. This is either people pleasing or this isn't. And it's just so much more nuanced than that. It's so much more tangled up than that. And I don't need to stop relating when I don't know. How do I continue to relate and take good care of myself, even when I don't know? Um, yeah. What does that look like to live into it? To live the questions. That is always what we come back to here, of course. So thank you for diving into that exploration with me today. I really like this new facet of the journey. It definitely is one that doesn't feel so clear cut and therefore many times feels uncomfortable, and inviting myself to sit with the tension, inviting myself to recognize more about it than I might have realized, and to know that that tension won't be forever, that it's wise, it's trying to communicate something to me, and will I listen? Am I taking the invitation to listen? So that's what I've got today. I'm really honored to be back in these conversations with you. And I'm so excited for our first guest interview of the season next week. And then I'll join you back for another solo cast the week after. Thank you for being here. I hope that your week is a sweet one and meets you in the ways that you are wanting to be met and wanting to explore further. And maybe wanting to remain curious. I'm loving diving deep, and I'm looking forward to the next time that we meet. Have a beautiful week.